Welcome to The Pull Bag. Join us as we dig out our latest comics and discuss them with the rotating panel of the GCRN crew. So sit back and enjoy this week's Pull Bag.
Hello and welcome to The Pull Bag. This is episode 379. I'm, of course, TFG1Mike. Joining me is Steve Megatron.
Hello.
Holy hell, two episodes in a row. I can't say 2 weeks because this show has not been running on the regular. We are here to talk about something that you brought to my attention. It is called Super Scouts. The second issue so far is on Kickstarter. The campaign has until June 16th of this year to be funded. It is written by Ryan Little, and the art is done by Bruno Oliveira. I'm probably butchering the hell out of his name.
We apologize if it's butchered.
Yes. I'll put the knife away now. So you brought this to my attention. You want to talk about this a little bit since this is kind of your thing?
Well, actually, it was submitted through the contact form on the website for coverage, which thankfully I know that works.
Yay!
And it was submitted for the media review copy mailings, and it sounded interesting, just because he mentioned that he had basically a Super Sentai comic called Super Scouts on Kickstarter, and he wanted us to check it out. He says it's kind of the story kind of follows the Galaxy Quest concept and sees the cast of the original Super Scouts show discover that their adventures were based on real intergalactic battles 20 years after they rose to fame. So basically now they have to face their former selves and unlock a hidden ancient power before the evil Lord Darkness arrives to destroy the Earth. So that's the basic premise that he sent us in the email, and I was like, okay, this sounds interesting, because I enjoyed Galaxy Quest and Power Rangers, so I was like, let's give it a shot. And on a whole, I enjoyed the art and the basic premise of the story. What are your thoughts on it?
I did too. I think the art is really interesting. I think, because they're trying to... The art is interesting because you're trying to give Power Ranger suits their own unique thing or Sentai suits, I should say. Heaven forbid anyone listening say that, but it's based on Sentai, not Power Rangers. Well, Power Rangers came from Sentai because it's... Anyway.
You hosted a podcast about Power Rangers. You get a pass.
Nobody knows that, though.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. So, yeah, I mean, I can see the Sentai influence here. I can see the Galaxy Quest influence. I will say I feel that Ryan's writing is good, but it can get better. When I heard the name of the... Well, when I heard the name of the
specific elements that stand out to you in that realm.
Like, okay, so I get it. You can't call your big bad villain Lord Zed, obviously, because copyright and yada 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 yada. But Lord Darkness, you could find, like, one of the other villains is called Tunnelingus. If you can come up with Tunnelingus, you can come up with something better than Lord Darkness.
Well, like, for instance, and honestly, I've always kind of dreamed about, in a sense, my original story idea becoming a comic, or originally I wrote it as a screenplay, but I came up with this whole universe that was kind of unique, and these varying characters, backstories, full names, hero or villain name. And I got a couple that are based off of something else. Like I have a character called Professor Glacier, which is like a Mr. Freeze type of character. But like, I have villains such as like Dark Star or Lord Fury or Vega or stuff like that. That makes you know they're evil, but you don't know really what the connotation is.
I mean, I get it. Most of the Sentai stuff and even most of the Power Ranger stuff is kind of, tongue in cheek. At least most of the early stuff was kind of thing. And like, I don't know. Not that I'm looking for a super inspiring villain name, but Lord Darkness just did not come off to me as being
this end all be all evil.
Something as insidious as Lord Zed or Mesogog from Dino Thunder, or
just kind of creating a weird-ish name.
Yeah, like a cool, like you're a Professor Glacier. I would assume that's I mean, we all use character types because character types have been around for years. There's very rarely that any original characters appear that it's not inspired by something else. But Professor Glacier to me sounds like a combination between Mr. Freeze and Professor X. So Mr. Freeze meets Professor X, so Mr. Freeze with mental powers. He wouldn't need a freeze gun because he could just shoot icicles with his mind.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, that name inspires me to think of two very different characters that we already know, whereas or Darkness just seems like, he unscrewed his light bulb. And I'm really not trying to be negative. I am trying to be critical, even though most people will say, oh, that's not critical thinking. That's not the way critical thinking works. I'm just saying I liked it, but there's certain rooms for improvement. Like there's been room for improvement for me to podcast for the last 12 years now, and I still haven't, improved that much.
Yeah, I mean, they do have a villain that shows up. It's not really a villain, though. When the main characters were visiting the Green Scout on set, and as they're about to leave, they have like a Rita type character coming out of a bin or like cauldron.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I mean, some of that whole entire scene is basically just dirty anyway. But
yes, it is.
But I enjoyed the aspect of the original twist of having the guy that created it and basically being one of the original scouts, much like Zordon in a sense, except he's actually in the flesh. Like he's not in a tube cast in another dimension. He's actually with them. Yeah. Which was kind of a nice touch. And then they had like the super suits, basically, much like Arrow having them in there, or the Batcave, or things like that, on his island. So those were some pretty neat aspects that I kind of enjoyed the kind of callback ideas to that. I really did. The one character that kind of resonated with me the most that I enjoyed was the Red Scout. Because he's kind of like this aged out guy that still reminisces about the good days of the show and has all this, this museum, and, these kids are just not respecting it whatsoever. Which is kind of like modern day, where modern kids don't respect the things that came before. They're like, oh, it's not cool. It's, that first series sucked, or, those were the words in this. And, and then they're, it's very candid and kind of fits today's mindset as far as modern kids are concerned, looking back at old stuff. And, then they're calling him out. Why is there blue paint underneath the bike? Weren't you the red one? And he's like, all right, time to go. Get out. But and then everybody else is like super weird. Like the other two dudes are super weird in what they've been doing in that time frame. Right. The one thing that was really weird too was when the old man decides to like, oh, I would leave you be, and he turns into a goose and flies away, or a swan or something. Like, good luck, bye. Like, and the other guy's like, I knew it.
Like, why would you reunite us and then not lead us? Oh,
no, and then he's like, all right, peace out. I'm gonna fly away. Like, and he's like, I'm a goose.
And I kind of get that and I haven't seen. I've seen maybe 4 scenes of any Sentai. I'm not a Sentai person. I grew up. I was 13 when Power Rangers started. So I never got into the whole Sentai thing, but I've seen several different scenes from Sentai, and I see exactly where that character type of the old man comes in from on Sentai's end. So
yeah. But so what are some things that stood out to you about these 2 issues that we got the privilege to read?
What stands out is the art in certain scenes and the way that the lines are done, the way the colors are done. I actually really dig the colors. I'm hoping some of the backgrounds can be a little bit more involved, but the actual colors on the costumes, I absolutely love those. I think it's great. I love some of the color like contrasts with the backgrounds. Like in issue 2, there's part of it where one of them says, "Tell me, what have you come to teach me?" And then the blue dude just kicks him. Me teach you? Why? Oh, why? I love that red on the red background, like showing that, oh, this dude's been kicked like several feet away. And then later they go to blows where he's like, bring the rain. And it's a yellow background and it's against their 2 blue suits. So I love the color contrasts. Like I said before, I just think that once the second issue is funded, hopefully they can get this on Comixology, because that's the other thing for me. It's not Ryan or Bruno's fault. It's not any comic creator's fault. I'm not a big fan of PDFs in general. And the way I've been reading comics for the majority lifespan of this podcast is digitally on Comixology. And with the Comixology guided view, I think this comic would read so yes.
See, I'm kind of the other mentality on it. I kind of enjoy the PDF because to some degree, now don't get me wrong, I do enjoy some of them with the guided view. However, I do find it annoying sometimes because it takes me twice as long to get through an issue as it would be if I just had the whole thing in front of me. So I kind of get it from both perspectives. Right. But I ultimately enjoy the PDF method more because I don't have to deal with it. I can just scroll, and no matter what device I'm on, I don't have to tap over and over. I can just kind of keep my hand on there and just kind of slide it. So, I mean, it kind of depends, though. It just depends on the issue or the comic, but overall, that's what I prefer.
For me, and I have to do this sometimes, even on Comixology, so it isn't just because of whatever, but for me on PDFs, it's more of, oh God, I have to zoom in because I was born with optic atrophy, which is nerve damage to my eyes, and astigmatism. So basically, I have my phone, and my phone is like, sitting on my bed as we're recording this, and I'm looking at this panel with the pink Scout. I almost said Ranger. Scout, where she says, all these years, all your work. Like, in order for me to read that line, I have to zoom in like 10 times. Whereas if this was on Comixology, guided view or not, mostly with guided view, it would pull in on that, and I would be able to read it no problem.
Well, I did notice that the difference between the first issue and the second one, the first one was full size, the second one was not.
Yeah.
Unless you zoomed in. However, I will say one of my favorite moments was the second issue. And again, the red Scout is the one that stood out to me. Where the blue one and the green one are having to fight themselves, young versus old. And even the pink one. The red one's just like, hi, hey. Well, this is weird. Yeah, what happens now? I don't know. I'm supposed to whoop you. So maybe it's in here somewhere. And then he kind of hits him in the chest, and he says, "Is class in session now?" There's no way. And then they just start, going back and forth. And then the next time you see them, they're sitting down together, just talking, and then they're just like, "Hey, let's commiserate."
Yeah,
the
exactly.
other ones are all just bludgeoning each other to death and having to wipe out the younger version to unlock their powers. The older one's just sitting there, and he's just, they all come up to him, and they're like, "Hey," he says, Get over here! Your wildest dreams have come true." They're just sitting there, and says, "We know we fought our younger selves for weapons too. Fought them. What if I'm mostly the same?" And they're like, "I have no clue." And then they're like, "Oh, he really is just like you." And then he pulls out the sword, and then the other guy just takes him out. So I mean, it was kind of funny how the whole thing played out. I like the designs of the villains that they have. And then they've got Lord Darkness, which kind of reminds me, in a sense, because he's like, it's almost like a genie bottle, and then he's got like this darkness that kind of comes out with red glowing eyes, and it almost reminds me of, wasn't there a villain like that in the Iron Man animated series in the 90s?
Oh man,
I know I'm going way out there.
I should know this, and I think there was.
I want to say, like, sometimes things like that just trigger for me.
Yeah. And again, I am not trying to lambaste this at all. I think this is a really cool concept for those people that are really into the two fandoms that he's trying to merge together in his own original story. I think the plot is interesting. I just think it also needs work as it goes along.
Yeah, and it's an introduction, so I expect it to, because like everything is kind of bumpy on its initial. But I would like to see some more things kind of fleshed out before they just kind of run right straight into battle.
Right.
Because it's kind of happened twice now. Especially in the second issue. I mean, you have a few things that kind of went by, but it's mostly just attacky stuff. But I do like the twist that, by the end that they have, I'm not going to reveal it so that people actually get it. But it's pretty interesting how they do it. It's kind of like your Lord Zordon, or like the whole Zordon moment of like the beginning of Zeo in a sense, like, or the end of MMPR season 3 before it goes to Zeo of, the villains kind of conquering all in a sense. But no, I kind of enjoyed the way that this went. I would be interested to see how it progresses beyond this one, just to kind of see where they take it, whether there's more growth potential for the characters, and just kind of what direction they take it in general.
Yeah, absolutely. I am interested, and like I said, once the second issue gets funded, here's hoping that they, make the comic and they make it available on something like this. To me would be, and I don't know if Mr. Little has gone and done this or not, but this would be something to me that he would bring to Comixology Originals or something. I don't know, not sure, but like this is something I could see on there as something like that. It was interesting. It was something very different than you look at our history, folks. Batman, Power Rangers, Turtles, Transformers, Gem, Back to the Future, all kinds of other, Spider-Man. You look at this podcast's 7-year history now, and we've covered a lot of stuff, and this was, even though it's marrying two fandoms that they love, it was a lot more original than most other things that, we've read.
No, and I totally agree with you. I think that it has a lot of potential. And again, like I said, I kind of look forward to seeing where this goes from here.
Yep. Absolutely.
So what are your final thoughts?
Final thoughts. I hate to be a broken record, which I usually am. Yeah, I mean, kind of. Final thoughts is I'm interested to see where it goes from here. I'm interested to see if it eventually does get on Comixology, so maybe we can revisit it in like a trade paperback form and get the full story. Because for me, I like reading in trade more than single issues, and Ryan was nice enough to give us the first 2 issues for review, and that's great. And I think the second issue leaves off at a point where, I wonder what's going to happen next, and that's what single issues should do. I'm just so used to doing the whole full story all at once. So I have hope for this. I hope the campaign I mean, I'm pretty sure the campaign will be funded because it does say it's like 288% funded already on Kickstarter. And people have until June 16th of this year to go check that out on Kickstarter. Link will be in the post, so you guys can check that out. Like I said earlier, here's hoping we can have Ryan on the show at some point. Ryan Little, the writer. And maybe I'm completely wrong in everything I've said in the last God knows how long this episode's been.
Yeah, I think that overall it wasn't bad. Like I said, I look forward to seeing what comes down the pipe for its future. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, it was fun. And I wish them luck.
Absolutely. All right, folks. Episode 380 is next on the pull bag, and I mentioned it before. The Geekcast Radio Network was kind of built on Transformers, if you think about it.
Yeah.
And we're going to be covering, Steve and I are going to be covering, we may have a special guest. I don't know if he can stay up that late, but we may or may not have a special guest for that episode. Episode 380 will be Transformers Galaxies numbers 1 through 4. This is Tyler Blazinski on writing with Livio Remendelli on art. This is the Constructicons Rising arc. For those that don't know or may not know, I'm not sure everyone does know this or not. I know a lot of people that have kept up with the Transformers books from IDW know this. A while ago, in IDW's other universe, because this is a new universe now, in the universe that they just ended, there were these things called Transformers Spotlights. Some of the spotlights were individual issues that spotlighted on a character. Other ones tied into certain things that were being written at the time in the other Transformers books. Transformers Galaxies is basically the best of both worlds. And yes, I know I just made a Hannah Montana reference. Sorry, folks. Where it's the spotlights, but it's also a continuing story that, ties into the main ongoing series. But you can read the first 4 issues without having to have read the main Transformers ongoing that IDW has currently. So that's what's coming up next on the podcast. Where can the people find you online, sir?
Well, they can find me on the Twitter sphere at SCP21.
I'm at TFG1Mike. You can follow the Pullbag at the Pullbag on Twitter as well. Make your great escape into comics, and we will catch you next time here inside the Pull Bag.
You just heard the latest episode of The Pull Bag, GCRN's comic book review podcast. There are several ways to get in touch with us and leave feedback for the show. You can visit the website, geekcastradio.com, where you can comment on the episode and all of our different podcasts. You can rate our show on iTunes. Be sure to leave us feedback. Call the voicemail line, 502-526-5821. Please remember to tell us the show you were leaving the message for, and your name. Become a fan of us on Facebook by searching Geekcast Radio Network. You can send us an email, feedback@geekcastradio.com. Follow us on Twitter @GeekcastRadio. So until next time, Unleash the geek in you.